Well, I'm Arnold Kling, and I write for the blog Econlog. And I left the job over 10 years ago, but I was an economist at Freddie Mac. So I have that perhaps dubious qualification. Well, the answer depends on who you ask. Clearly, Ben Bernanke and Henry Paulson think it's very bad, and they are much closer to the situation on Wall Street than I am, and I take their views seriously. On the other hand, Alan Meltzer, who is the leading historian of central banking in the United States, thinks that they're exaggerating and the crisis is overstated. And certainly if you look at the general economy, the unemployment rate is higher than it was a few years ago, but far, far lower than in previous recessions or certainly in the Great Depression. So I think that's an arguable question, exactly how bad it is. In my opinion, the proposed bailout plans could hardly be worse. I have two perspectives on this. First of all, as a libertarian, this is a huge, huge power grab. It really links tightly big finance and big government, and we should be very opposed to that. My other perspective is, I did mention that I was an economist at Freddie Mac, and at the time my focus was on developing models of mortgage credit risk. And it's a sophisticated, difficult task. And in my opinion, what has gone wrong in the last several years is that a lot of people who don't understand mortgage credit risk have been taking mortgage credit risk. And Paulson and Bernanke, for all their knowledge, and they know a lot more about a lot of things than I do not understand mortgage credit risk. And nobody involved in pushing this plan understands what they're getting into and how difficult it will be to value these mortgage securities. They all just assume that they can hire some technical person, someone like what I was 10 or 15 years ago, to take care of it. And as the person who would be tasked for doing this, I'd say it's not possible to do it. The securities are too complex and they're too sensitive to potential scenarios for house prices. The core task of this bailout is going to be valuing these mortgage securities, and that is an impossible task, and that the bailout is bound to fail for that reason. I should emphasize that none of the modifications that are being talked about to this plan, whether the Dodd modifications or what Paul Krugman might propose, make it any better. You know, there's been a phrase used in this political campaign that if you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. Any plan that involves this much involvement of government and finance and linking them together is a pig, no matter what kind of lipstick you put onto it. So am I concerned that Congress has only 7 days to go over it? I don't know whether I'd be more worried if they had 7 days or if they had 50 days. The way Paulson and Bernanke have positioned it, they have no negotiating leverage. Whatever Congress adds to it, Bernanke and Paulson are saying we have to sign the bill or it'll be the end of the world. So Congress could add whatever they want. They could add universal health care, universal daycare, universal yoga classes. I mean, whatever they want to add to this bill, and Bush will have to sign it, or else he's saying that he's committed to the end of the world. What I've suggested as an alternative is to modify capital requirements. One of the reasons that financial markets have frozen up is that banks, or especially, but other financial institutions, but especially banks, are struggling to meet regulatory capital requirements as these mortgage assets get marked down to lower and lower values. If we were to loosen the capital requirements, they could continue lending, which is the alleged goal of the Paulson bailout plan, but we would not be committed to trying to bail them out by buying out these securities without knowing what their value is. Their value can be discovered over time in the marketplace, and if we loosen capital requirements, we're taking a risk that some banks will fail and we'll have to bail them out. But that seems like a smaller, more manageable risk. We have an FDIC that's very experienced at monitoring banks and trying to control losses. And so we'd be building on stuff that we know that works rather than spending $700 billion on an untried new business model.